Hi my friend, in this video we're going to be making underground tech house synths and vocals inspired by Malpi's song Beats for the Underground. And we're going to find out if we can do this in about an hour of in-studio time using the 80-20 rule of tech house synths and vocals. What you're listening to right now is the track that we'll actually be working on, and what you're now looking at is the Ableton project file that we'll be working on. In particular, we're going to focus on this melodic group here, as well as this vocal group right here. And we're going to go in order of how I actually created it, so that you can kind of follow along when you're building out your own tracks. All in all, it did take maybe an hour and a half to build out the original loop of melodic information, the synths and vocals here. And this entire song, mixed, mastered, arranged, and all that, fully ready to go. Took about 5 hours over the course of about 4 or 5 days. And if finishing songs faster is something that you'd like help with, I've created a completely free bundle of templates, samples, and special bonuses that I use to completely finish one new song like this every single week. Just visit the link that's in the description or on screen right now to grab the ultimate song finishing toolkit for free. With that said, let's jump into this. Alright. So in this one we're going to have to do a little bit more jumping around than normal, because in the Malpi song there's a lot of like layers that come in and out over the course of the tune. The first one we're going to go over is this kind of Siren. You can hear this in the reference track. And that's added in here right now. So again, main thing when developing these kind of tracks, I recommend having the reference track in as kind of step one of the 80-20 rule there. Setting it up so that the track is off, and then when you press the S key, you can flick back and forth. And this is going to allow you to very easily select the right sounds, make sure your notes are correct. And one of the biggest things is going to be adding, making sure the volumes are correct. That's going to be the fast track for sounding really professional tunes. Setting your volumes correctly against a reference track. So for this Siren sound, displaying this one long B sharp kind of note here. And then what I did was I just found, I looked up Rave Siren in Splice and looked at the right key and found this sound. And this is the loop that's playing. And I dropped this into simpler. And what I did is I have it so it starts at the beginning, so it has that cool like rise sound. And then set the warp on here and set it to loop, and then adjusted this the loop start percentage here, so that once the initial bit plays, then it'll start looping back and forth. That way it'll go over the course of that sound. Then what I did after that is added in a shifter effect and then automated in the fine tuning to kind of, I think you can kind of hear that in the reference track as well, but I played with it a little bit more as I started to start from the reference track and slowly made it my own unique track. Other than that, I'm running it into this effect rack from Sound Toys. It's just a 10-man setting that I adjusted, kind of moving the sound a little bit left and right a bit, and then it's running into this A1 trigger gate, which is free. And what I do every once in a while, you can see here, I dial in the mix, kind of get that stutter house effect, and just kind of automated it throughout the track. That's definitely not in the original, just something I like to play with. And then last but not least, running into this channel strip, we're moving a bunch of belows, using some one knob sidechain to kind of pump it and move, add some groove and make room for the kick and the bass, and then also a little bit of one knob Ableton saturation to kind of fill the sound a bit. This is like a channel strip I'll usually have on everything, but it goes on every audio track, every MIDI track. And then it's all set up for one knobs so that everything can be easily adjusted quickly. If you want me to make a video on this, let me know and I will. And then also I should mention that there's an additional link in the description to download the project files for this video, so you'll be able to steal all these little racks that I make and all that kind of stuff. It also has all the previous project files, and I'm also finishing a new song every single week, so you'll get access to that as well. The next thing I added in was the second sound, which is just that higher rave sound. I put it in every once in a while. It's just the same sound, it's an octave higher, nothing too crazy going on other than that. I think I did also add this one up width to kind of push to the left and right, adds the stereo and make some room in the middle. Then the next thing I added in was this screech sound. And so what this is, I was looking up Rave stuff on Splice and ended up finding this. This isn't really in the reference track, it's just something I kind of liked and added in. I threw it in on kind of that little offbeat sounding kind of bit. And I played with the automations here, or the pitch fades. So some are a little tighter and some are a little bit less tight. So you can see it's the fades here, the fades here, the fades all the way here, the fades here. So just kind of changes the sound a little bit over time, kind of tidying it up a little bit. Main thing is then we're running into this channel strip again, removing a bunch of the lows, shelving out some of the highs. I find shelving is a nice way to kind of reduce some of the highs without it being as harsh as the low pass filter. Then we're running into the one knob transient shaper, pulling back some of the sustain to tighten the sound a bit, and then running into the sidechain again to pump and groove and make room for the kick, and a little bit of drive, Ableton saturator to fill up the sound a little bit. If we listen back and forth to the reference track, it's not in there at all, so that was just like a creative decision I made going forward. Let's go on to one of the next sounds. So now we're going to do a little bit of jumping around. We'll move to over here. It's this little clap thing. So again, as I was looking at like kind of rave sounds on Splice, I was just typing that in. I found this cool little clav sound and kind of heard that rhythm and just dropped it in like this. Nestled it in quite a bit. Again, this isn't really in a reference track, it's just kind of cool, kind of, I don't know, underground sounding kind of vibe that I kind of got out of it. In terms of any processing, we are removing the lows as usual, a little bit of sidechain, and that's about it. Next up, we have this cool sound. And so that's just like another sample I found on Splice. It kind of has a cool little vocal bit to it and that kind of chord. And originally, I'm going to drag it out here. It was all this kind of crap. And I kind of just cut out little bits that I liked and then put it into different spots to kind of give it an interesting little kind of groove and character, which I think sounds really cool. Again, flick back to the reference. That's not in there at all, so just kind of another little idea that I kind of got there. So then what I do want to show you is if we do listen back to that reference again, you'll hear the vocals kind of a main part. So at this point, I want to jump over to the vocal bit here and show you what was built out here. So this is pretty important. So in terms of the arrangement right now, I am kind of, you can see the filter here dragging this up. So let me just move it to a spot where it's playing all by itself. Not there, it's right here. Probably here. Maybe not, sorry. Try here. Cool. So what I did, again, I looked up a vocal on Splice, kind of just cut it up a little bit. Normally it's that full, the voice of the underground, and I just cut it up so it's just the underground. And then on the fourth one, it plays the full amount. So kind of just cut it up, move it into different places to kind of get an interesting groove. We listen to the reference. Main thing was trying to get the volumes correct. So I think this reference track, the vocal is louder, but it's close, I would say. So main thing was just looking up something cool on Splice. And then what we have going on here is this cool little John Alpine. Shout out to my buddy John Alpine in Philadelphia. He gave me this little rack. So it's this cool little Nectar 3 thing. It's doing a little bit of weird pitch. And the pitch is, the pitch formant is matched to an LFO. So it's just like slightly changing the vocal, so every once in a while it kind of sounds like deep and weird, and kind of interesting, I would say. It kind of makes things a little bit more interesting. And this is running into a Soundtoys effect track with a bunch of different filter-free kind of sounds that I found, and just dialed in the mix quite a bit. This is killing the CPU, so I'm going to take that out. It's going to add a little bit more of a gritty character if I turn it off. It's louder, but I think it's a lot cleaner. So I like kind of like the weird, kind of more underground gritty texture there. Then running into the same channel strip as usual, we're removing a bunch of the lows, and then I do have a low pass filter that gets automated and kind of moves things around. A bit of an arrangement trick, so it kind of fades it in, but then also once in a while moving it, so it's just kind of adding some character and changing things up. Then we have one knob sidechain, pumping, giving some groove, a little saturation to fill out the sound a little bit, and a little bit of width to push things to the left and right, and kind of make things more stereo. And I felt like this wasn't quite enough, so if you listen to the original,
What are you talking about?
it sounds like there's a lot more going on there, and this wasn't cutting it. So what I added was a couple extra bits. So I have this one. A cool little drop it. Let's do it one more time. So again, just looked up some cool ravey sounds, vocals on splice, and then moved it to just a position, not starting on the one, kind of playing around with it, kind of got a cool little vibe out of it. In terms of the processing, not much going on here. Removing a little bit of the lows, making sure there's no muddy stuff there. A little bit of one knob sidechain, so it's pumping a little bit, but that's really it. Then I still felt like that wasn't enough, so then I added one more layer, which is this one. Listen to it one more time. So sometimes it says feel alright, and sometimes it just feel it. Like that. And then feel alright. Boom. So I feel like Malfi does this in a few tracks as well. Kind of cutting up different vocal bits and that kind of thing. And that's kind of the vibe I was going for. Filled it out a little bit more. In terms of any processing, what we have here is removing some of the lows, and I do have another one of these high-pass filters. Again, filtering it in as an arrangement trick throughout the track. Other than that, we do have an echo that is part of an arrangement trick. It echoes it out during one of the breakdowns. Get to that in the arrangement video. Other than that, we're just doing some one-off sidechain. That's about it. And I do have a bit of returns on here, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of short delay, and a little bit of long delay. I'll show you what it looks like right here. We have reverb. One trick I'll do is I'll set this decay by multiplying or dividing the BPM by 60,000 so that it's a half note or quarter note. And then a short delay and a long delay. And that's kind of a look at that. Let's see if there's, I can turn that off because sometimes double vocals can kind of sound weird and funky. Then something else that I did add was this additional synth layer. So this is actually from this layer here. If I just pause this. This little cool thing that I showed a bit earlier. There's also this like more full chord that happens. And so I cut that out and put it into its own little area, and then added this interesting kind of cool stabby, ravey kind of rhythm, and just kind of cut it up and put it into different areas. I made it so that some of the notes are longer and some of them I cut up a bit shorter. Just kind of makes it sound interesting and different, I guess you could say. And adds a cool little groove to things. So that's the same idea, just cut up that sample and cut it into different little slices there and move it into different areas. In terms of processing, just removing some of the lows and a little bit one knob sidechain, that's just about it there. In terms of anything else going on here, I do also have a few different synths playing in the bridge. So move over to the bridge. So we have this little bridge sound here. It's cool, it's kind of polyrhythmic. And so basically added that in here. And then I have, as you can see here, we're slowly building in the filter. So it's slowly being automated. And a little bit more of an arrangement thing, but I do want to show this too. Because then when the song fully kicks in here, cool and in there and sick, I would say. With the low filter, this is what the main drop sounds like. Fully filtering into vocal. Boom. And then there's also, and a couple more things I want to show you here is this other synth. Nestled in there quite a bit. Maybe just kind of get a loop going of this one. So what this is, let me bring it up. So it's -12, I'll remember that. What this is I'm using Synplant 2, and I'm using kind of AI, and what I did is, there's this thing called Channel Patch, and what I did was that synth that I showed just a bit earlier, kind of this chord stab here, that cool sound, I cut this and I dropped it into Synplant, and it used AI to recreate it. And so we hear that. This sound, listen. This is what Synplant came up with. So it's not quite there, but it sounds kind of interesting. And the reason why I wanted that is it's kind of a cool house music technique to, if you're using synthesizers, so you can have, like, say, a tighter sound, so the decay or the release is a lot tighter, and then you slowly open that up, either as a way to, like, slowly add some interest and energy, but it's a cool, like, bridge or build-up kind of technique to slowly open up that release and that decay. And so I wanted to kind of get that vibe, but I was using a sample. So I dropped the sample at the Synplant to kind of get a similar sound. And then basically we open up some of the automation here. You can see just slowly bringing up, there's an effect on Synplant, which is usually some kind of like delay and that kind of reverb kind of stuff. So at the beginning it's a lot tighter and it's slowly adding it in. And you can see over here the release of the synth is slowly being brought up as well. In addition to that, usually when I'm using Synplant, I'll usually run it into the spectral resonator. And the reason I like to run it into that is because if I turn this off, you can really hear that. Listen to this sound. This is that Synplant sound without spectral resonator. And then with it, so what I like about this is with spectral resonator on, you can set the mode to MIDI, and then you can choose which MIDI you want it to come from. So I have it coming from itself. And then this way, what I have is like this D sharp note that's playing at the same locations as that previous chord stab was. And so that way this D sharp at these specific times, whoops, is then happening in the spectral resonator, so that it's kind of forcing Synplant to be in tune. And then also there's kind of these this decay knob here, and so I'm able to also kind of tighten it up by having a shorter decay and then automating the decay to get louder and opening it up, so it kind of has that effect as well. So that's just a kind of cool little extra thing as well. And other than that, a little bit of standard channel strip processing, removing some of the lows. I've tightened up the sustain, and then you can see I've automated it at some point too to fill it out more and open it up. And we have some one knob sidechain, so it's pumping, and you can move the kick. And then a little bit of this one knob width, pushing to the left and right, making more stereo. And then the last thing I want to show you is this. Is a pad. And we're just gonna listen to it for a second. Just playing kind of a triad there. Basic chord. And this is just coming in during the breakdown and some of these other breakdowns. Just kind of filling out the sound a little bit more and adding some interest. Something I like to usually do. And then in terms of the sound, using this Noctua Venus Theory workstation thing, just found a cool preset. Just using cool pad sounds in that. Removing some of the lows, and then removing a bunch of the highs and filtering in the highs, so that if we have this play, you can see as like a arrangement production trick. We'll go more into the arrangement in the future video, but it's slowly opening it up so you can hear more and more of the pad as kind of a build-up effect. And then a little bit of 1-knob sidechain, a little bit of 1-knob saturation, a little bit of 1-knob width. And I think that's a pretty good look at everything. Hello again, my friend. Hopefully you found that video useful. If you'd like to follow along yourself with the 5-step song finishing checklist, there will be a link in the description below where you can get access to that completely for free, and it's going to help you finish your songs a lot faster and better than ever before. If you found this video useful, like and subscribe and all that good stuff, but really the best thing I can do for you is hook you up with that free checklist, so make sure you check that one. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video, my friend. Have a good one.